How I got into game development. Originally, I was just gonna do regular coding, right? I was only gonna do programming. I was never gonna do any art, or wasn't never gonna do any 2D art, right? Nothing 3D, no animation. I was just all I want to do is just code, right? But I just got into it because there was no other way. Like I wanted my own like art style, but I could never find it. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna try doing pixel art. So originally I started pixel art. It looked bad and it was terrible. I got into a little bit of animation, basic, like walking movement animation. It wasn't as good as I thought. But originally what I started doing was, instead of just being stuck there and saying, you know what, I'm just gonna purchase, ads or I guess art, right? I said, let me try doing pixel art. Originally I started with MS Paint, right? MS Paint, obviously, for you guys that don't know, you can't really do any animation or translucency. So I said, oh, well, I can try Macromedia Flash. Because Flash was still, it's still around, right? I think it was called Animator or something like that when Macromedia was around. So I was like, oh, yeah, I remember using Flash. So I said, let me try using Flash. But unfortunately, there wasn't really any updates or any support, right? And then when I heard the rumors about, Flash going away for games, I was like, okay, that's it. I need to do something else. So I need to do some sort of process to work on my games. That's where I discovered Unity, Unity 3D. I said, okay, I'm good with C Sharp. I'm good with C++. Let's try Unity. From there, then I said, okay, well, I guess I have to do the art then. So originally, I was just gonna rip a bunch of sprites from like Final Fantasy VI, those typical games that you see that you can get the pixel art from. Until I started noticing people were making their own pixel art, using a sprite, using other softwares like Photoshop, but particularly Paint. Sprite was up there. So I said, well, let me try Sprite. From there, then I started getting into better into doing my own art. I would practice like maybe every 15 minutes, just a little pixel animation, just something basic. Right now, like it was something like this. This is what I would used to do, and you guys can judge me. I don't know. It was bad, but hey, I was beginning and I was willing to learn. So yeah, this was the first guy. That's this guy here. This guy. Actually, yeah, we can open up this guy. This is the first type of animation I would do. So it was very blocky, right? It was just very simple, right? A face, a nose, an eye, right? Very 8-bit type of animation or pixel art that I would do. From there, I say, you know what? I can try to get better. I did a bunch of started, picking up streaming. Saying, well, not too many people do game development streaming, so I'll try that. And from there, then I got to meet, a few, the common beers now, and Proper Duck Games, so a bunch of other people. Ben, they kind of helped me, kind of like motivated me to do more game development, get better art. And I think what happened was from there, I met other, people that were much better at game development and art particular, and I think they knew that I had the I guess the wanting to learn. So from there, they taught me how to do better pixel art, how to do better animation, and that really helped me. So it got me much better at doing pixel art. Of course, I went from this doing this sort of pixel art to doing maybe, like something like, well, here's something I'm proud of that I really like doing, and I might have shown you guys the crocodile a couple times, but I like this crocodile. Um, or alligator. So I went from like basic pixel art to like maybe something like this, where I can draw ripples and that sort of animation. So that's kind of like how my pixel art kind of progressed throughout the time. What do I think? I think anybody can pick up art. It's a matter of wanting to do it, right? It's kind of like if you really want to put your mind to it, you can do it. Um, it all it takes is just kind of like having the basic understanding, like how to do the process, right? For me, it wasn't like a day, a day over day sort of thing. It wasn't like the next day I learned how to do art. It took me maybe a year, even maybe 2 3 years to get better at with 2D pixel art. From there, then once I got better with 2D art, I think I was able to get step up into Blender. Now, for you guys that don't know, Blender is more of a 3D modeling perspective. Blender, that was one I said, you know what? I don't think I'll ever learn Blender. It's very like complex. There's a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of things that go into Blender, right? It's not something you can just learn off your hands like right away. But I say, you know what? If I can follow tutorials on how to do 2D art and learn it really quick, I could try to learn Blender as well. So for me, the way did it is more of a just a general understanding. I didn't try to copy the tutorials like some people do, where they just follow tutorials, just do exactly how they say, and then you follow it along. And I said, no, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do it more into the aspect of learning and understanding the process. What's kind of like a topology. What's faces. What are vectors, right? How to do X-rays, that sort of thing, right? Before I was like, what's an X-ray? Topology? I don't even know what the heck that means, right? I think I had no idea what that meant, right? How to scale, cube, how to scale a sphere, that sort of thing. And then from there, I started getting a general understanding in Blender. I'm still getting better with Blender, and there's a few things I still need to learn. I'm very much like I'm a advanced beginner, I would say, in my case. But from there, then I started picking it up, and I was saying, Blender isn't so bad. I think I can do 3D animation now, or 3D modeling and rigging. Let's not forget rigging. Rigging is a whole another aspect. But I think once you kind of like get the general understanding how to do some things, and you can do some monsters like how I did, right? You can do a beholder like this, right? And then rig it up and kind of like make this sort of animation and art in your process. It's something that took me a while to understand and how to set up, but I think I really wanted to do it. I think when there's a wanting, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It could take you a year. It could take you maybe a couple months to understand it. The important thing is to do every day, like do a little bit of it, like maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes of it, right? Maybe an hour, 30 minutes. You don't have to do like maybe like 2 hours or 3 hours, right? You can just kind of like do a little bit and say, okay, you know what? 15 minutes, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna try to do something else. And then I think that's the fastest way of learning and understanding. Like for my experience, for sure. I know that's how I learned, and that's how I'm gonna continue learning. Right, doing more art, my own. Eventually I might even do it my own music and stuff like that. I don't think it's gonna be too difficult. Just kind of like the way that I've been taking things, and the way I kind of do in my process. And the same goes with streaming too. Originally I was like, streaming. I don't know. YouTube, probably not for me. I'm not very talkative. For you guys that don't know me pretty well, in person, like in a group, I'm very quiet. It's not that I'm shy. I just don't really like to talk too much, which is kind of the ironic part. I'm not much of a talker, right? So I never would expected for me to talk, do like a conversation, or like even do a speech just in front of everybody. But once I got the confidence, I was like, you know what? Not so bad. It's pretty easy. I think you just gotta believe in yourself. You gotta be motivated and have the right understanding and the right mindset to do things. I don't think it's just gonna be instantaneously, real quick, right? It's gonna take quite a while to get the general understanding and process of how to make 2D art, how to do programming, how to do animation, how to do all kinds of things. And I think for you guys that are trying to learn to do game development or any art, I would suggest you just try it. Honestly, just try a little bit of it. Get the general, idea of how to do like 3D art or maybe 2D art or coding, right? And then that way, let's say, I don't want to do this. I'm just gonna hire somebody, or I'm just gonna ask a friend. Say, hey, you're much better at this. Could you do this for me? It's like, yeah, and you can better understand it, or you can better explain it to a person, right? And that's really the idea. Explaining it, like have the general understanding, where it's enough that you can say, okay, well, this is how like 2D art works. This is the topology I want. This is this is the model I want to use, right? And you can explain it to somebody so they don't have to think, what is he talking about? I don't understand, right? So you don't have to say, oh, just tell it to me in English or something. Yeah, it's much better to understand the technical knowledge of it, and then that way you can tell it to your friend, like, hey, can you do this process? Make sure it's serialized field. Make sure it has this type of variables, that sort of thing. And really, you don't have to be a specialist. The basics. That's really all you need. Once you get the basics down, then I think you can do pretty much anything. You can go up to somebody and ask them for help, or you can, like me, try it yourself, being a solo developer, doing everything yourself. But of course, if I ever need to, I can always hire a specialist, right? And I can tell them, oh, do it like this sort of format, right? Or here's my original 2D art. Can you do it in 3D? Say, oh, okay, that's easy, right? So I don't have to copy or do anything like that. Yep. And then that's my take on game development, doing better art and doing better coding, being a better solo developer, right? Just being a better developer in general.